Long before we utter a single word, our physical forms are already confessing our deepest insecurities, intentions, and secrets. Research demonstrates that when humans communicate emotions and attitudes, the vast majority of meaning comes entirely from tone and physical movement, leaving the actual vocabulary to carry only about 7% of the weight. This silent broadcast happens because of the limbic system. As one of the most primitive regions of the human brain, it reacts instantly to environmental stimuli, triggering involuntary micromovements, facial twitches, and postural shifts to reflect our true psychological state. We like to believe we are in absolute control of our own narrative. Beneath that illusion, however, the body acts as a constant, uncontrollable whistleblower, exposing the truths we try to hide. The scientific study of these signals took shape when psychologists doctors, like fear, disgust, or joy, are biologically hardwired and identical across all human cultures. To read these universal signals in a specific person, analysts establish what is called the baseline. This is an individual's normal, relaxed physical and behavioral state when they are in a neutral environment, free of stress. Once that baseline is locked in, any disruption becomes glaringly obvious. A sudden threat, an act of deception, or a spike in attraction will fracture that normal rhythm, causing distinct physical anomalies and microexpressions. Training your eye to catch the exact microsecond a person's baseline shatters turns them into an open book, granting you immense social leverage in any interaction. Nowhere is this leverage more critical than inside an interrogation room, where intelligence agencies use behavioral analysis to dismantle lies. Pop culture suggests that a liar will avoid eye contact. But in reality, practiced deceivers will deliberately hold a steady gaze, overcompensating to manufacture an illusion of honesty. Instead of looking for a single tell, professional interrogators look for incongruent behavioral clusters. This occurs when a person's spoken words, their vocal pitch, and their hand gestures suddenly fall out of sync. Within these fractured clusters, involuntary pacifying behaviors emerge. As the brain processes the stress of a lie, you might observe the sudden freezing of the hands, restricted head movements, or an unconscious rubbing of the neck to self-soothe. Detecting deception requires spotting these anomalous, uncoordinated clusters under pressure, rather than relying on an isolated physical gesture. Beyond the interrogation room, these exact biological mechanisms govern the arenas of elite networking and interpersonal attraction, starting with the psychological weight of eye contact. Highly effective communicators employ the one-thought rule, anchoring their gaze onto a single person until a sentence is completely finished. In contrast, rapidly scanning a room broadcasts a low-status, submissive anxiety. Sustained eye contact sets the stage for a biological phenomenon driven by mirror neurons. These specialized cells simulate the actions and emotions of others, creating the foundation of human empathy. When you intentionally and subtly match another person's physical rhythm, their posture, their speaking tempo, or their breathing, you actively stimulate these neural pathways. Profound connection rarely depends on the cleverness of your vocabulary. It is the result of hijacking biological rhythms to manufacture an irresistible, unconscious rapport. This manipulation of biology scales up into the architecture of power, where physical space is weaponized to command respect in boardrooms and political debates. Much of the modern conversation around power posing, the idea that adopting expansive body postures can trigger hormonal shifts and increase risk tolerance. Researchers draw a sharp distinction, however, between aggressive, space-taking dominance, which relies on intimidation, and the calm, structural alignment known as prestige. Elite leaders project prestige not by inflating their physical size, but through extreme physical stillness, upright alignment, and slow, deliberate movements. Conversely, high-speed movements, restricted head motion, and nervous fidgeting instantly broadcast submissiveness, destroying any perception of authority. True authority requires no intimidation. By mastering somatic control, leaders ensure that others inherently respect their presence. When you combine a highly calibrated baseline with the structural alignment of prestige, The scattered pieces of nonverbal communication merge into a unified theory of physical influence. The apex of this discipline is called congruence. This is the flawless, mechanical alignment where a person's spoken words, their vocal pitch, and their physical frame deliver the exact same message. This absolute, unbreakable alignment is the scientific source of what society vaguely labels as charisma. It leaves no room for limbic leaks or contradictory clusters. Studies show adopting these confident postures can actually increase internal confidence levels. This creates a self-fulfilling prophecy. As the body maintains the frame of prestige, the brain begins to mirror that physical state, turning a practiced stance into genuine certainty. Once you internalize these mechanics, your daily interactions will never look the same. You will see that the most persuasive, manipulative, and connective forces in human interaction operate in absolute, total silence. The silent language is no longer a series of subconscious cues, but visible indicators exposing the hidden dynamics driving every conversation. Recognizing these signals turns every interaction into a legible map of intent. Once you can see the somatic code, you no longer merely react to the atmosphere of a room. You have the tools to define it.